What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Lou Reviews. I'm your host, Luis Jimenez. Welcome to the destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. Please don't forget to smack that like, share, and subscribe button. Ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we do go live, which is sometimes very unscheduled, most of the time, actually. If you want to support the show, there are ways. Links are in the description below. You guys know all about Patreons and things like that. Today, we're going to have a friend of the show, researcher, UFO researcher, fair to say, and just level head in the UAP, UFO drone community. Now we have to throw drones in there. Mr. Steve Long, he'll be in the house here in a couple minutes. Want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Hello, everyone in the chat. Blizzard, Steve Long, who's in the chat. Simon Fly, Pinzaloo, one of our mods. Thank you for being here. Timothy Brigham, PhD. What is shaking? Thanks for being here. Jimmy Chakowski. Howdy, y'all. Howdy to you. Howdy, people. Dana Shadell, a member of the show, who supports the show with the almighty dollar. Thank you so much, Dana, for being here. So does Blaster Axe. Thank you so damn much, you guys, for all that support. Asynchronicity, thank you for being here. Hides in Long Grass. I think he's a fan of the show, but still glad you're here. Pat Calabria. Yo, right back to you. Lord Boss. Every time I see this name, I want to say Lord Badass. But Fifi Barbora, Vancouver guy. You guys, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about the drone hysteria and all of the madness. I wanted to get, somebody else's take on this. I don't want it to just be me in here talking about all of the nonsense that seems to be happening with this drone flap. But we'll dig into it a little bit. I mean, there were some interesting comments today from President Trump. Soon to be President Trump, President-elect Trump, about the drone situation in Jersey. And he said some really interesting things, actually, that have nothing. I don't think he knows. I don't know if he's been briefed. He kind of hinted that he might have been briefed. It would make sense if he's been briefed, considering he's the incoming president. He's telling the administration to be honest with the American people. He also said some very interesting things as far as tracking these drones. So we'll play the clip. We'll get Steve's take on it. If you guys have any questions for either me or Steve during the show, you can put your question in all caps, or of course you can do a super chat if you really, really, really must have your question answered, just in case we miss it. I did get in some wonderful trouble. I see Steve's in the back studio. He's setting up, so I'll give him a couple minutes. Got in some trouble on Twitter, which I usually do. I think the thing that really cuts deep, straight to the bone, to a UFO believer is to tell them that they're mentally ill for UFOs. And it's true. Like, UFOs to me now are a mental illness. They're a plague on public society because they are these perfect cesspools for really terrible information. Just in this last week, there's been so many examples of that. One of which I fell for, and we debunked here on the show. In that Jersey shoot down. It was a video of like somebody shooting at a drone. And as we looked at it over and over and over on the show, we're like, wait a second, something's not right about this. And we figured it out in real time. Okay, yeah, this is fake. This is fake. And it made its rounds, and it keeps making its rounds, and people download it and re-upload it. And, the community notes, they sometimes take a day or two to catch up to the newer posts. And so there's been a lot of frustrating stuff with this whole drone issue. But, calling people out, here we have James Fox. Everybody's super stoked about James Fox's new film being out. I could care less. It's not going to move the needle on any sort of level, not at a film festival, not on the scientific level, not at the public level, it is to me like a social fart in the wind, essentially. It's just a quote documentary. But the idea that he has one of his main witnesses in this movie, Jason Sands, who's been all over Twitter in these spaces, talks about, going to Mars and back in one of his interviews, which is Corey Good stuff, like fraudulent Corey Good narratives. He's shown many times in spaces that he's an unreliable narrator. And to take his testimony and put it up there as gospel in a forum that is, again, ripe for misinformation and people relying on bad stuff, I'm sorry if I call you out on that. I'm sorry if I call out your mental illness. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to continue to do it because it's the only thing that seems like to actually hit home, which is exactly what I want to do. Like a cold bucket of water on your belief system. I'm not going to apologize for that. It's UFOs, just like Scientology, just like a lot of cults, they need to be called out, and needs to be people who have some rationality against that madness. But anyway, just want to talk about that for a second. It looks like Steve's ready to go. Steve, you ready to go? All right, he's giving me a thumbs up. All right, so let's bring up our friend Steve Long. Hold on one second, Steve. I'm gonna do that. Sweet. I'm gonna switch to our Lube Reviews production camera here. Steve, what's happening? Welcome to the show.
Yo, what's happening, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Let me bump up your audio there. So I asked Steve, because I love Steve's takes, and I love when I get messages from Steve, it's when I'm in spaces like trying to add some sort of rationality, some sort of skepticism, some sort of level-headed perspective into some of these spaces. And then that's when I'll get usually messages from you being like, yeah, man, like, here's an example of this, here's an example of that, being like, you have, there've been messages from you and other folks being like, dude, you have so much patience sometimes for these folks, but sometimes that patience just runs out, and it just turns into pure frustration. And it's like, it's a roller coaster with this stuff. But I wanted to bring you on because we were talking about drones, and I know you I'm sure have a unique and wonderful perspective on what you think's happening in Jersey. But other than that, I also asked you to, if you could be sort of a regular co-host around here. So, I mean, not every show, but if Steve wants to donate his time and has got the time to be on Lube Reviews, we're going to hopefully have him around a little more. So I just wanted to say that and say, hey, welcome.
Thank you. No, my pleasure. My pleasure. And yeah, I'd be happy to, come along and contribute a little bit. And I'm really honored that you, offered for me to be part of the team and part of the show. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah, no sweat. I mean, there was a few guys on there who were like, man, I'd love to have this guy. But, people are busy and people just have lives and shit to do, and I get that. And I'm pretty cognizant, especially after the old UCR days, asking people like, hey, would you like to be a part of my show? Because I appreciate your perspective and your brain and your viewpoint on things, because sometimes, I mean, even I could realize like, shit, dude, like, it's just it's just one opinion, so maybe sometimes it's good to get a little bounce back from someone else just to see where you're at. So that's why I want one of the reasons why I wanted to bring in. So I'm happy you're here. So I guess I wanted to definitely touch on what Trump said. Have you had a chance to hear what Trump said about the drone issue here in the last couple hours?
I don't know. I think I saw something about him saying the government knows what's going on. The president knows what's going on, as in Biden. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to. You know what? Screw it. Let's just go ahead and listen to that right now. I'm going to pull it up. If you allow me a moment here, I will pull up the old Twitter feed here. You can see that, right, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is Trump just a few hours ago addressing the Jersey drones. I can't make it any louder, so bump up your volume if you can't hear it.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been?
Do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions. First.
Okay, so that's where it ends right there, basically. They asked him if he had been briefed on it, which I thought was interesting. What did you pull out of that moment there?
I don't know. I mean, obviously anything that Trump's going to say is going to be geared towards, being antagonistic and trying to draw away from, the current sitting administration. So it doesn't really, everything has to be seen through that guise, right?
Right.
Obviously. I mean, he brought up some good points, right? Like it's possible that they may know. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the pinnacle of our technology is. I'm not privy to that kind of information. Most of us aren't, right? So it sounds good. A lot of people will be willing to go ahead and believe that. I'd probably be a little more hard pressed to think that we're all knowing, all powerful, like that. But at the same time, maybe we are, and we just don't want our adversaries to know that. We, as in the defense community. So perhaps they're trying to play ignorance and feign that. I really don't know, but I know that obviously Trump is going to be a little biased towards the administration, and anything he says is going to be to build himself up and to detract from that administration. So I don't really put too much weight into what he has to say, I guess, about that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, he hasn't been there. That's number one. But I would imagine, being the president-elect, that he might have been briefed on what was happening down there. It's not out of the realm of possibility, because, I mean, his Secret Service is changing. The exchange of power is happening, and it seems like the administration that's in there now is more than willing to just secede that power and make sure the exchange of information is flowing freely to the president-elect. I did find it interesting that, yes, I do. I don't know where to land on this. Yeah, I am like, I don't think they know that as soon as this thing pops out of the garage, they got it on their radar. But then I think of the Spy 1 radar system from the Nimitz, and that this is what, 2003, right? Or 2008? The Nimitz. I can't remember.
2004?
Or 2004, there you go. The Spy 1 radar is able to pick up objects the size of a softball at 70,000 feet in the air. That's pretty impressive. It wouldn't shock me if the military has some kind of system that immediately picks up. Because I have a drone, and you have to register these drones. They have serial numbers. Even if you don't register them, they connect to something, because it's a radio signal beyond just from drone to controller. So it wouldn't shock me the second you turn that thing on. They were like, okay, we got a drone here. It seems like it's just whatever, a Mavic DJI or whatever, so no threat, but they're aware of it. And if these things were, especially if these things were flying over sensitive military spaces or sensitive infrastructure or airports or things like that. But as far as we can tell from all of the video evidence, which is the hardest data we have other than the eyewitness testimony that we've gotten from the ground, not one of those video have turned out to be anything anomalous or something that isn't supposed to be there. It's either usually just a conventional hobby drone of some kind, or it's just normal flight traffic, which is even, I don't know if to say scarier, but for people to mistake normal flight traffic for incoming drones from China is odd.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is. It's what it being so rare is what makes it a mystery or a phenomena, really, I guess. People generally, I don't think, are looking up, and then suddenly there's the media and the news and everything talking about these mysterious drone sightings. So then suddenly people start looking up a lot more than they did before, in greater numbers, and then they're seeing things that are far away, and they think that they're closer. But yeah, it's certainly discouraging that so many people would allegedly clearly mistake so many airplanes and helicopters for being some type of mysterious drones, right? Like you said, all the images that we've been shown, whether it's from newscasters and media stations to just people on Twitter with their personal accounts, have pretty much all been, or could be, planes and helicopters. And the ones that we have enough information on have been proven to be just normal flight traffic, so it is concerning that so many people are, confusing those things. Yeah. And again, just to touch on we were talking about Trump's comments. Yeah, clearly we have technology to be able to monitor what's in the airspace, right? And that doesn't mean that, the technology was in play in that specific area at that specific time, looking for specific things. And again, I don't know what the technology is. We may be able to have instant awareness of all of our airspace with data that's always stored, so they can look back and find it later. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. But the bigger, I think, picture goes to say that if there's really not any mysterious drones going on, right? If most of it is just misidentifications and people seeing airplanes in the sky or helicopters and misidentifying them, then there's really not anything for the government to know, right? Because they wouldn't have picked up these mysterious drones because they just wouldn't have been there. And again, just to caveat that obviously there are drones, and some were most definitely in the sky over New Jersey over the last few weeks. And clearly, drones are being flown over sensitive military areas, but that's a different issue than massive drone incursions going on with mysterious and very maneuverable, defying drones. That's a different, story that's going on, and those two things definitely need to be separated, right? Because they're not really being separated in the media. They're not really being separated in Congress when they're talking about the issue and the funding that they want to take care of the issue. So I think it's important to really, like I said, keep both those aspects in mind, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't think that there's much for them to know, because there just aren't these mysterious drones that are incursioning in the New Jersey area or the Eastern Seaboard,
Yeah, well, it would be, man, this would be so much more convincing if there was a FLIR camera footage of something weird flying in Jersey that had metadata attached to it that was not coordinated with a Starlink or a flight tracker of some kind, that was definitely flying without any sort of known, especially if it had no red and green indicator lights, which all of these have. They have the red lights, they have the green one, and they have the white one. I can't remember which three colors, but whatever. But yeah, the thing that you brought up that was interesting, and I pointed this out when we did our last stream in a tweet, where the first thing that they talked about in that congressional hearing was, hey, this funding for this bill that specifically covers drone incursions is expiring on the 20th of December, and it needs to be renewed right now. And we need answers on these drones. We agree. We do need answers on these drones. And we also need to renew this law that gets us more money to look at this stuff. And for me, it's shocking that no politician was like, well, why should we give you more money if you guys haven't found anything with the money and the resources we've given you? You guys can't even communicate properly. So what is more money and more resources going to do if you guys can't even do that properly? There was none of that, but the timing of this is so interesting. Like, is it because for me, what Trump does a little bit there, and again, I'm just guessing here. I don't know, but if he is being briefed and he does, it feels every time Trump talks about this, the first thing he does is laugh it off and raise his eyebrows up in the sky as if he knows there's nothing to this. Even from the pilots that he's not convinced there's anything to this with everything that he sees as president of the United States and everything that he knows. His kids are into it, but he's like, nah, maybe he always puts the maybe, but to me, it's like he's kind of hinting there that they know what it is. And if it's a test of some kind, tell the people you're testing something. But I don't know, again, I don't think the military likes telling people they're testing things. But if they are testing things, it would explain this irrational hysteria that's happening right now. I'm curious to know what is your take on that theory or that idea that this is what might be happening with this right now.
Yeah, so in fact, drone companies and the military do test at night. That's when they do a lot of their testing maneuvers, specifically on things, systems that are designed to not be seen and to be, spy-like and surveillance-like. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for, drone companies and manufacturers and for the military to be doing those types of testing at night. Again, I don't think it's accounting for the massive numbers of reports that are being seen. Again, furthermore, because all those reports that have images tied in with them are proving to just be regular military traffic. So again, I think that they're two very, separate issues, although they may be co-occurring even. I don't think that, that kind of testing is responsible for the massive wave that we're having right now, as much as, just hysteria is.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I'm curious to know what was the igniting point, though, for this. I mean, we did point out the other day, look, in Jersey in 2021, when they were doing football games in empty stadiums, and the very first Monday Night Football game that had come back was in New Jersey, in the Meadowlands. And there was a giant Goodyear blimp over the Meadowlands that brought the New Jersey Turnpike to an absolute standstill because people thought they were looking at a mothership. And at first glance, when you look at it on this video, it was like, all right, what the hell is that thing? Like, it's got this glowing orb in the middle and it looks almost triangular. And then you look at it for another second or two more and you're like, oh, wait a second. This is a fucking blimp. This is clearly a blimp. And then you found the tracking radar to where the people were pointing the camera and all the different angles, and it pointed right to it being a Goodyear blimp. And as soon as you say, oh shit, it's a blimp, and you confirm that in your brain, it's a lot easier to see that thing as a blimp. And I'm wondering if that's like, what's happening here? Like, what ignited this fire? Was it one drone that ignited this thing and people were like, oh my God, this is crazy. Just go outside, you'll see them. Where did this, do you know where this started? You don't have to know the answer to this, but I'm curious, like, what sparked this madness?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I do recall the New Jersey blimp, the Goodyear blimp, and that was great. Like, seeing the image the first time, especially the one that was taken from the highway, it really looks like a UFO. And when I first saw it, I it blew me away. I was like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
It just is a great example of how people, even mass numbers of people can misidentify something that they really see all the time, just without realizing it.
And that's a mass one. Like, that's not a tiny one.
Yeah.
And that's one that happened in real time. People were streaming to Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and they were taking videos and pictures. Like, if it was a real, that's in my brain how a real mass sighting would go, right? Yeah. People looking in the sky and going, holy shit, immediately whipping out their phones and starting to film. And that to me is valuable data and information, because then you can take that, okay, and say, okay, this is the way they were looking. This is the direction. This is the time. This is the date. This is the location, exactly where they were on the freeway. This is where that object is in the sky. Oh, look, what's beneath that? The Meadowlands Stadium. Oh, I wonder if there was anything happening that night. Oh, Monday Night Football. Like it's like, and then you get the flight tracking of the blimp, taking off from the airport, doing its circles around. It's so funny, dude. Like you're right. Like, in real time, we have that example. That to me is a good one of mass missighting. And a small hysteria, and I think you're right. I think that this New Jersey thing is more than likely that. It's a little bit of the media misunderstanding it, and people then going outside and adding fuel to this hysteria fire.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even just I live in New Jersey, and I live in the southern part and right on the coast, and I see all kinds of air traffic all the time. And I'm kind of a nerd, so I always have the flight radar on, looking to see what's going overhead and what that is. We get a lot of military air traffic and stuff, but even just when I'm here in my backyard, tracking something that I see, sometimes it'll surprise me that what I'm looking for isn't on the flight tracker where I'm kind of seeing it or where I expect it to be. And that's when it's something that I know is an airplane, that I'm looking at it, that it's on the flight tracker right in front of me, and I could still sometimes have a problem just not locating it, but it won't really appear on the screen where I would think that it would from where I'm looking at it. And not many of us are used to just looking at flight tracking data. Like, most of the people that are involved in this wave right now, they're not people that have been looking at flight tracker for the past 2 years every day. You know what I mean? They're not really familiar with how far away some of these things can be. And it's so easy to mistake and misidentify simple things that you really do see all the time. And I don't know what started this wave exactly. That's a great question that I'd like to look more into, just trying to get at the nexus. But obviously there were reports from the UK that were going on in the weeks before, and it seems like it just kind of is spreading geographically. It kind of spread up to Massachusetts and now spreading down to Maryland, and it just I guess it doesn't really surprise me that we had these reports in England, and then suddenly, right across the pond in the most highly trafficked area of the United States, that we had kind of repeats of that. I'd be interested to see what the first report was from here in Jersey, a couple of weeks ago, that really the media, I guess, started covering. Just to line that up a little more. But obviously, once the reports started in the media, then everything just extrapolated from there,
Yeah.
And you mentioned the FAA lighting patterns. That's so interesting in so many ways. And, you can even say okay, well, the lighting patterns are FAA regulation. Why would an adversary that's trying to surveil us do that? Why would they want to be seen at all? And of course you can make the argument well, it's a way to camouflage themselves, but it's really not necessary when you could literally be not seen at all without any lights.
Right. Well, also, Hides Along Grass makes a good point here. And it goes, the military owns most of Nevada. Why test new things over New Jersey? I mean, like, I can't argue that. It's a good point. Like, there is no good reason to test it over New Jersey other than if you're just trying to create, like, for example, the SR-71 Blackbird and the Stealth Fighter, they would fly those things as classified planes in the highest classified box you can get and fly them over major metropolitan areas just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm. And to me, it wouldn't be crazy if just one of these might have been that, and then that's what created. It's going to be very difficult to prove that, of course, but other than looking at past examples of the military actually doing things like this, because they want to see what kind of confusion it creates in the phone systems and what it does when people are spreading information. Like, all of that is data that they take and show, whether that be a DoD contractor or that be the military just testing it. Either way, they can go to their boss and be like, yeah, this is what it did to traffic. This is what it did to did we lose Steve? Stevie's still there? Oh
No, I was here just looking at chat. Sorry.
Yeah, so you know what I mean? So like that could be one of the reasons, but again, without evidence, we just don't know that.
Yeah. And this is just like you said, without evidence, we're really just doing a lot of speculating. And the bottom line is, drone operators will tell us openly that they do test their products at night and over regular civilian areas, and a lot of testing, I think, more than people realize, is done in those areas for all kinds of reasons that me and you probably wouldn't ever even think of. It's not like they just take everything out to the ocean and test it out there. Yeah.
Well,
and even just test everything over your military base, like. It's really kind of hard to stay inside the confines of that, depending on what you're going to be testing, Yeah.
Well, there was a really interesting, shortly after I ended UCR, I had a lot of very, very interesting long conversations with a lot of people. One of them was Jeremy McGowan, and we were talking about like this idea of, he asked me, he goes, what was the nuclear bomb? Other than it just being a very big bomb, what was it? What was the purpose behind it? And I didn't have a great answer, whatever it was. And he says the real purpose behind that bomb was to send a message to the rest of the world that we're in charge. Like we're here to stay. And if you mess with us, this is sort of like the consequences of that. And in the last 80 years, there hasn't been a moment like that for the United States. And in a lot of ways, a lot of different countries have caught up, technologically speaking, and in some ways surpassed us. And what better way to send a message that we're still in charge than to create some sort of hysteria with new tech, and the normal public and news stations get the information, oh my God, it's mysterious, or there's nothing there, but the intelligence that reaches China or Russia or Iran is, oh shit, this is a new toy and it belongs to the United States and it could do what? Like, let's just say for a moment the reports are true that there were people trying to launch drones at these drones, but the drone prevented it from launching. Or when you tried to take digital pictures of it, it would blur the image, right? Let's just say, I mean, what tech that would be, I have no clue. But let's just say for a moment it is real. That would be an interesting way to kind of show your hand without having to really do anything. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a far-fetched theory. Again, we're speculating here, but it's benefit of the doubt, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, sure, possible, possible, probable. I don't know, but yeah, there's all kinds of like aspects to like national defense and the intelligence game that could possibly be at play here, and certainly are at play no matter what's going on, right? Even if it's just in the matter of how to respond or not respond. But yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, even just the traffic and communications and whatnot that's going to be drummed back and forth between adversarial intelligence groups may be valuable to us, and that could just be peripheral. And but it just the funny thing is just how much of the open source information is really part of the intelligence gathering game, not just for us, but especially for our adversaries. I mean, even in the Cold War, the vast majority of information that the Russians had came from open source information, our newspapers, our media, our TV shows,
Right.
stuff like that, government comments and admissions. I think that's forgotten about a lot of times. And so often the American public wants to know the truth, and they, deserve to know the answers. And we can have all kinds of conversations about that, right? But there's no way that the government can tell us these truths and secrets without telling them to our adversaries, right? So at that point, there's just no line that's drawn between the two as far as the government's concerned. Right or wrong, we have to accept that and accept the information through that guise, and take an understanding that we as average taxpayers just don't have the right and need to know about some of the most secret things, and that doesn't mean that they're hiding alien technology because they're being super secretive about everything. When open
Right.
source information, including FOIAs, are one of the leading ways that our adversaries are appropriating information and spying on us, then they really need to think about what they let out into the public sphere. And a lot of times, even something that you think is mundane and could not be of any consequence could turn out to hurt you in your adversary's hands in ways that you never even envisioned.
No, you make a killer point. And I wanted to play this clip because especially after you said that, I like, we always it's, if you're a skeptic of this stuff, you're a shill for the government, right? Like you're a messenger for the man, or you're being paid by a disinformation group or some shit. And you come to my house right now and tell me I'm getting paid by anyone other than, the job that I have. I dare you. Like it's funny, but like when you hear Secretary Mayorkas here on, and this is a 5-minute clip from the Wolf Blitzer show, but I don't think it's Wolf Blitzer interviewing him. Maybe it was. But this is interesting that what he talks about. I think they talk about Langley in this clip, but they're mostly talking about the New Jersey drone aspect. And when I heard this, I'm like, God damn, dude, like I can't argue with this. And it seems to make logical sense that this is just a lot of exactly what this show is titled, Hysteria. It's just hysteria. And I hate to agree with, quote, the man, but I think everybody will be better for listening to this than not listening to this. So I'm going to go ahead and play it.
Have not seen anything unusual. We have not seen any unusual activity. We know of no threat. We know of no nefarious activity. I want to repeat that. We have not seen anything.
Here's something I just noticed. Sorry. This was shared by Paranormal Chris, but here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can't see it now because it's paused. It says it's stamped with red panda koala. Like, you think, dude, I hope CNN gets your ass for something like that. Like, you're going to watermark somebody else's footage? That's so... What is the point of that? That is wild to me.
we know of no threat
Look at that.
or of any nefarious activity. And let me explain. People are reporting sightings of drones. It is very common for individuals who think they see drones to actually see small aircraft, and we have a case of mistaken identity. Also, we have 6 different people reporting what they think is a drone, and all of a sudden we have reports of 6 drone sightings. So there's some duplication. I have been in touch with Governor Murphy every day. Our experts have been in touch with the New Jersey State Police every day. What we have done is we have deployed our state-of-the-art technology. We've deployed our experts to New Jersey. That technology has...
Could that state-of-the-art technology be confused with highly advanced drones? Steve, what do you think?
Which technology?
That he's saying that we have deployed high tech. We're in touch with the governor. We're in touch with local and state departments, and we've deployed a technology. Here, I'll play it again. Listen to what he says here.
Yeah, I thought he was talking about detection technology.
Yeah, like detection, trying to detect other drones. But I'm wondering, but what does that mean? Like, what is that?
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Are they drones?
Are they drones? Like, because if they're drones, they could be testing those drones to find other drones that are actually infiltrating our systems. Like, to me, maybe part of this is that those drones, like, the military never wants to show what they have unless they have to. And maybe there is something infiltrating the sky that shouldn't be there, and they had to deploy this, quote, technology, and that technology is what's being confused with Russian or Chinese or whatever.
Right. And not, and even just looking at it a little smaller, suddenly people were starting to notice all kinds of, military and law enforcement air traffic over, the New Jersey area, citing this as a rapid rise in activity. And that could be explained simply by the fact that all these drone reports are causing these agencies to have to act and get in the air. And
right. Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah, yes, of course, dude. Like, it's starting to make a lot of sense.
I have been in touch
and I've seen,
with Governor Murphy.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, even just like on my end here around me, like I said, I'm on the flight tracker a lot, and I've seen quite a few what I would call routine, air traffic, military training runs that are done like multiple times a week. That happen up and down the coast, be cited as like something nefarious or something that is pointing to some type of major military action or some type of adversarial incursion, and it's just normal training. Routines.
In Los Angeles, there are military bases north, south, and east of us, and there are always major helicopter formations, jets just screaming over LA sometimes, at least twice a month, where it'll shake your house, the helicopter blades on some of these choppers. It's insane. I've seen them show up on Twitter or some other media platform, hinting at, the next coming apocalypse. Oh, they're getting ready for something. Oh, the drones are here, or the aliens are here, or they found a commune of Bigfoot, like, it's like, what is going on? But this, it's interesting. Like, I think, to me, Steve, and I don't know if you agree with this, and because I hate the term of, well, you've got to read into it. You've got to read between the lines. But I don't know if I believe this is reading between the lines of more of, this is kind of telling you the truth while deceiving you at the same time. It's like, hey, we've deployed technology. We're in touch with these people. Like, we're telling you exactly what we're doing. And, what you see is what you see, but we're not going to tell you what you saw because, hey, buddy, it's classified.
Yeah, and whether or not that's happening in this specific instance,
Yes.
I don't know. It certainly could be. And furthermore, it often is the case, right? Like you said just a minute ago, that the government doesn't want to give out anything that they absolutely really don't have to.
Yeah.
So they keep their stuff as bare bones as possible. And they kind of, like you said, beat around the bush, right? And it's not that they're lying, but they're not
Yeah.
going to come right out and tell you all in fine detail. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you just have to take their statements. And if they tell you that, they have their own equipment that they're getting in this, into the game, and that none of these things pose a risk, and they're very specific to say that. Sometimes you can read between the lines and we don't know exactly what they're saying, but they're specifically saying in instances like this certain things that absolutely are unequivocal.
Well, here's the thing. To me, the thing that you learn from this, and we're going to play it again, he says, we've deployed like new technology. We're in touch with local law enforcement, and we are actively searching for the things people are saying they're seeing, and we're not seeing them, which, to your point, is like more helicopters, more jets, more law enforcement, more people on the clock, overtime, shit like that. Like they're especially at night, because that's when they're being seen. So that's when you're going to hear the choppers. That's when you're going to hear the sirens. That's when you're like, every little thing now that happens, and it drives me crazy. Like a plane crashes on the New Jersey Turnpike, and all of a sudden a bunch of idiots on Twitter are sharing it and implying and linking it to these drones in the sky. And it's frustrating. It's like, how do you keep up with this madness? And for some people, it seems like trying that madness is like trying to ride a bull that's unrideable. And people try to ride it, but it always bites them in the ass. And then they're eventually just become as bitter and upset as I am. Like, it's like, dude, why are you trying to ride that bull? Like it's out of control. It's not into rationality. It doesn't want your peace offerings. It just wants to bring as much attention and destruction to this discussion as possible. It's frustrating, dude. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I feel you. I do. And it's, a lot of frustrating aspects to this, none probably more so than the fact that for years now, UFO Twitter and some of the biggest names and personalities in the UFO disclosure movement have insisted that, drones and balloons have nothing to do with this. It's not what people are seeing. It's not what's being reported. It's not what military people are seeing and recording. It's drones and balloons don't have anything to do with this. Even, Travis Taylor went so far as to say, like, drones can only fly 500 feet and for about 20 minutes.
Right.
And then, the Ukraine war started happening and people started seeing drone activity a little more. So they started, that started bleeding in some. And then the Chinese balloons happened, the balloon incursions. So like little things have kind of seeped in that were just impossible to deny. But now we've gotten to the point where UFO Twitter, right, a UFO aficionado group, is to the point where they're trying to convince the people that have been trying to convince them that drones and balloons are a factor in a lot of these sightings. They're now trying to convince us that not only is that the case, but that they are themselves part of a whole new phenomenon in mystery.
Right.
Again, with the same level of poor evidence, anecdotal reports that aren't backed up by verifiable evidence. And when we do have the verifiable evidence, we can prove that they are not, a mysterious drone. They've almost always been a plane or a helicopter. And it's just funny to see that turn over the past couple years. And I was even surprised at some of the more skeptical voices in the community that are typically speaking to the unreliability of anecdotal reports, and speaking to urging caution about accepting them. I was surprised at some of those people who were willing to entertain, the drone wave, and were not so, scrutinous and skeptical of drones as they would be as, say, a UFO report. And I can kind of understand that, but essentially a claim is a claim, and if it's unsubstantiated, it's unsubstantiated. And although people in the government may say things, it doesn't mean that it's anything more than what me and you are saying. It doesn't mean that they've seen anything more than you and I. And in most cases, most of the politicians that have spoken out about there being, a mysterious drone phenomena going on, they're simply seeing the same media reports as you and I. But to them, it's for whatever reason they don't see them as airplanes, and they're hearing stories from people and from police officers, and they're willing to believe those stories and take them at face value, and that's fine, but it's just not the objective the objective truth, right?
Right.
And we even got to the point where people like Jeff Van Drew out of New Jersey, my representative of District 2, went so far as to say that there's an Iranian mothership, a drone mothership off the coast of the East Coast that's been responsible for these drone incursions.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Just crazy, just crazy things. And there's so much of what we usually see in the UFO topic going on. It's just been replaced UFO with drones in this particular instance,
Yeah. Which is so wild. Yeah, because you're right. Like a year ago today, they wanted nothing to do with drones because the very idea of even saying drone was sacrilegious in that circle of people. And now all of a sudden it's their meal ticket. It's like not only their meal ticket, but according to them, they've been warning us all along. It's like, whoa, wait a second. You haven't been warning us of shit. There was a post that McGowan and Paranormal Chris were they kind of posted the same thing, but in different posts, and that being, that this idea that Lou Elizondo, all of a sudden is like, yeah, we've been telling you about drones this whole time. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. What about this tweet? And what about this tweet? And I'm like, yeah, those are his tweets.
Specifically saying this is not about drones.
Right. Yeah. Specifically saying that. Right. But here's the thing. Mostly where people get information from him is in podcasts and the TV shows that he did. And in those podcasts and TV shows, let me tell you, I know this because it's one of the reasons I started the Big Phone Home. He would usually lead with, hey, this is a national security issue. Like, we need to know what these things are, because if they are Russian, if they are Chinese, that's scarier than if they're aliens. And if you really care about this, to contact your lawmakers and tell them to take it more seriously. And that was one of the driving points of the Big Phone Home. There was never any talk about aliens or any of that stuff in any of the verbiage that we ever used for that event because of that reason. And so for me, they led with that. They'll start, like, if the podcast is 2 hours long, that part of it is 10 minutes, and the rest of the podcast is implying and inferring aliens and
right.
ultra beings, and this was in my house and this happened, and it's like the whole thing is just, going to UFO conventions, doing a tour where you're fucking showing a chandelier as an Iranian mothership, like basically, they've been doing, and this is why I go back to the double speak of this a little bit, where they tell you the truth while at the same time lie straight to your face. Like, they'll tell you, oh yeah, and in a court, I think in a court, they could pull together all those clips and build a pretty good argument that, yeah, there's plausible deniability here. They never told you it was aliens. They've always told you it was a national security thing, and drones was usually the first things out of their mouths. Sure, yeah, 90% of it is all of this other stuff that you guys are complaining about, but they told you at the top, like, here it is. So it's, I think they've always have had this lie to you while telling you the truth. So that way they can always fall back on, they can always put their hands in the air and go, yeah, we never told you that. We never told you that. And
Right.
they wouldn't be lying technically.
Right. Yeah, and they're very good at being, judicious in their language and being very lawyerly.
Yes.
And having as little liability as possible in their words. Yeah. Then at the same time, they'll turn around and say that none of this is because of drones. And,
Right.
Plenty of skeptics, including myself, 3 years ago, were saying, look, a lot of this could simply be explained by the fact of drone incursions that are starting to happen, wanting pilots and military members to be able to report things, right, that they see, not because it's aliens, but because we have possible adversarial incursions going on, right? And just the overall, lessening of the stigma, so to speak, about reporting aerial encounters. And that was always just completely shot down. It has nothing to do with man-made or worldly technologies, and yeah, it's funny to see it now. And I don't know. See, if you look back at even just like counter drone and counter UAS history, like in 2017, it was really the first time that the government was asked to, help fund, and Congress was asked to help fund and appropriate and start legislation for countering, drones and UAS. And that was in 2017. And I think that the 2018 bill that it became was, the very first one. It's interesting that, you would have to think that Luis Elizondo, having the roles that we at least know that he had in the government, would be aware of these, increasing drone incursions. You would have to think so. Obviously, he wants us to think that he believes that they are something else. But it seems to me that that there has been at least some exploitation of that knowledge going on. Being aware before most people, before the wider general public, that the military is starting to face an issue with drones and balloons and those types of incursions. And I think that they were able to really exploit that and get out in front of that. I don't know how successfully, but pretty darn successfully in some ways, maybe not in the ways that they intended. I don't know how much money they've been making off of it, but it certainly has created an entire kind of movement that's, I think, directly reflected in the drone wave that we're having today. And I think that it would be really hard for me to believe that people like Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon and others who were just in government or have active ties and security clearances and are part of, advising the government on these types of things, I'd be hard pressed to believe that they didn't know in 2017 that there was a drone problem, considering that Congress was already being lobbied to start doing something about it.
Right. No, you're 100% correct. And also it goes back to, again, like one of these reasons why I asked you to be on this show is like, the discussion that I had a week ago or so with Christopher Mellon's son. And it's like, well, my dad has never done any of those things. My dad, he's a Boy Scout. He's done everything by the book. It's like, well, wait a second. Your dad is going to UFO cons. Your dad is doing UFO TV shows. Your dad is doing UFO blogs and showing up on podcasts where he's talking about this alien thing. And he's implying that it's real. And hear the text of him implying that these things are, not text, but tweets implying that these things are real. And
not even implying it, but saying things like, if Congress was to hear these whistleblowers,
right,
and if Arrow is to hear these whistleblowers, there's no doubt in my mind that they will get the evidence that will lead them to the fact that the government is covering up non-human, NHI, non-human intelligence. We're not alone. Like, these are very definitive statements, and it's not like there was one or two. Like, there's been dozens of them over the years. So as much as and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but yeah, like it's not a debate, and it's not like, and it's funny because I understand, and I appreciated a lot of the comments that Chris's son had, and I can, I think, understand that he would want to defend his dad, but he kind of basically said that we, as a UFO community, have really misperceived the level of involvement of Chris Mellon, and it's not the case. He's literally, he's literally put that idea and that message out there to us. He's made himself an authority on this. He's literally wrote the playbooks for how the legislation.
He writes forwards to people's books. Like he's writing books, right? Yeah, he's writing forwards to people's books, and so it's like. And what was frustrating, it's like, we got to treat this with kid gloves. It's like, no, man. Like if you're gonna say it's my fault that we took Christopher Mellon's words, and his actions as what they were, which is clearly implying that aliens and are visiting our planet and abducting human beings and doing things like he was talking about the UFOs scanning the Earth, in the first season of Unidentified. Like he talked about this triangle craft that looked like a Zumba going across the desert, like scanning, like who knows what. Was he scanning our military and nuclear arsenal? Was it scanning this? And then they would bring in, Robert Salas and his nonsense story from the 60s and the nuke shutting down. It's to say that he does not have a hand in the extreme behaviors and nonsense within the UFO community is at best not being honest.
Yeah, it killed me. Like, no. My dad, he's not like, he's just a hobbyist. He just has an interest in this thing. It's not like he's really involved. Like you guys perceive him as like somebody who's like really involved at the ground floor of this. I was just like, what?
Yeah. No, I was the only one in there going like, what the hell are you talking about? So yeah, it's frustrating to see this double talk, this telling you the truth. And look, there are just, besides examples of speech, there are examples of, the military making, a nuclear fallout bunker and a hotel, the same thing, like a top secret nuclear fallout bunker attached to a 5-star hotel. And nobody had any clue that this thing was a bunker for 40 years, 50 years. Like, so like things like that, where I'm like, man, if you're just really listening, and it's the same thing with Lou Elizondo. Like if you really listen to him and Chris Mellon, they'll hit you with it's a drone, pop, pop, pop. They give you the jab, and then they'll knock you out with, it's alien, it's alien, it's alien. Catch me at UFOCon. Watch me on, Ancient Aliens. Check out my brand new show. I'm going to be on so-and-so's podcast. This is what we're doing over here. It's like, all of that, like you said, they got to jump on this industry in 2017. It's now 7, 8, almost 8 years, that they've had this jump, and it's reaping benefits for some of them in some ways. And when it comes to Christopher Mellon, for God's sakes, his dad was on a stage selling stocks to a company that was promising people a fucking spaceship.
Saying that they had metamaterials that were not.
Yeah. Where are they? Oh, all that shit went away. Now all of a sudden it's just a comic book and movie company. Okay. Well, shit, dude. What do investors think about that? It's just insulting. It's insulting. But okay, let's listen to the rest of Mayorkas. Let's see. I want to hear this part again, because it's interesting. This double talk.
Every day, our experts have been in touch with the New Jersey State Police every day. What we have done is we have deployed our state-of-the-art technology.
State of the art. Again, we have deployed state of the art technology that could easily be drones that people are seeing, and they're not going to tell you that those are the drones people are seeing. For me, I don't know. Yeah, let's keep going.
We've deployed our experts to New Jersey. That technology has not confirmed any drone sightings. In addition, it has confirmed that some reported drone sightings are in fact small aircraft. Pilots have not reported seeing drones. That's not to say that there aren't drones, flying in the air, but we have no concern at this point with respect to a threat or any nefarious activity. The reality is you can have a 15-year-old kid who buys a drone off the shelf and puts it up in the sky. We have not seen drones turn their lights off in the dark. We have not seen drones penetrate restricted airspace. Those are two indicia that would give us a cause for concern. Wolf, I want to let the American people know right now that if we learn of any cause for concern, I will be back in this seat and explain to the American public why.
Only within the past few minutes, and I don't even know if you know this, Mr. Secretary, the President-elect Donald Trump, he just called on the Biden administration for you guys to either release any information it has about these mysterious drone sightings or shoot the drones out of the sky. How do you respond to the President-elect?
Well, first of all, the statements I've made already are the principal message that I want to communicate to the American public. We haven't seen anything unusual. We know of no threat. Secondly, we have gone to Congress repeatedly asking for more authority to counter drone activity. And we have also asked...
Again, they're going back to that legislation that they were just in Congress talking about. We have repeated, this is on Congress. We need more funding, but I love it. State-of-the-art technology we've deployed. Does that state-of-the-art technology bring down other drones? Does it prevent other drones from going up? Does it prevent other people from taking pictures of it? Because if it does, holy shit, that would be some interesting stuff. And that would also be a good reason as to why the federal government doesn't share those technologies, say, with the local sheriff. Like the local sheriff's not allowed to have one of those drones yet. Give it about 15, 20 more years, and yeah, you guys are more than happy to have at it.
Well, and that's what they're talking about with like the legislation, right?
Right.
Like we need to expand so that we can do something about it. We need the legislative authority to be able to do something. Yeah, the authority,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And when we listen back, this is why it was so important for me to play the entire congressional hearing on this show. So everybody can get all of the context and we could talk about it in a more intelligent way instead of a way that you get in these fucking spaces or these stupid venues where people don't make any sense and all they want to bring is mystery and lore to the discussion as opposed to facts. But the idea that the Border Patrol agent, the attorney, and the FBI all of them were like, yeah, we're having a hard time. Like, I can't show the sheriff, for the guy from the Border Patrol is like, I can't take our tech and the things that we're using and just share it with the sheriff in California 7 counties away, because this stuff they're not allowed to really look at it, but they can't say that publicly. And so and then you've got lawmakers coming out and going, well, why don't you guys talk to each other more? Why don't you guys do this more? And they're like, well, sir, we need more funding. We need more this. We need more that. We this is why we're here. Because this expires on the 20th of December. And again, they're just doubling down here with this. It's like, so that way when something bad happens, they can say, well, we tried. We tried to get funding. We tried to do it, but hey, you guys were, dragging your feet on it. Yeah.
I'm interested to see if the bill passes. What is it? The HR 8610 bill?
Yep.
I would think that it would, although when I was on, legislative aggregators, it had a kind of lower percentage of being approved.
Well, after this
40%,
month, though,
like 40%?
that's why the timing of this is so interesting too, because after the month of this being at the tippy top of the conversation, like I said the other day, if this happened during the presidential debate, this would have been topic number one at the debate. Topic number one, which shows you, like, if UFOs and aliens visiting our fucking atmosphere was real, like that would be topic number one at the debate no matter what, because people would want to get to the bottom of it. But I'm sorry, go ahead. You were saying?
No, those are great points. And, you know, for a lot of what I got from listening to the hearing was about, you know, and without saying it as usual, but, you know, they need to not infringe on our rights, but like they need to take steps that are going to incur with, you know, limiting the public and limiting what they can do with drones, and maybe techniques to stop drones that are going to, you know, limit, you know, whatever, electronic signals and stuff like that. And there has to be legal precedence and authority to be able to go ahead and do that. And I would think that people would be much willing to give up their rights and allow for stronger authoritative local and federal governments after fears like this have been whipped up, right? And it's not to say that the fears and the possibilities of adversarial incursions aren't real, and that we don't need to be prepared and to defend ourselves against them. I don't know how great having that conversation start off with hysterical reports of things that didn't happen. I don't know how the conversation, how productive it would be if we're starting off on that foot.
Right.
It would certainly make it easier to pass laws and legislation that give power to the government and take away some of the rights of the public. Again, maybe those are things that need to happen to keep us all safe. I'm not saying that they don't, but it certainly doesn't give me the feeling that we're having a discussion about those rights and authorities in a way that's very rational.
Right.
You know,
it feels rushed. Well, it's rushed. It's rushed.
Yeah,
it's definitely
it
rushed.
Feels rushed. It feels a little show and pony. It feels a little bit of play the American public in their ignorance. And I'm not saying like this wave has been orchestrated or anything like that. I'm not suggesting that. But certainly when the reports started happening, there are certain people who it would be advantageous for them to have these types of reports happening, because it will further some of the goals that they think that they need to meet, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, especially if you don't know what funding is going to look like here in the next fiscal year, especially with, you know, the Doge of government, you know, the Department of whatever they're calling it. You know, this idea that they're going to be, tightening the belt on the American economy. So you try to get this funding in now. Hey, what better way to do that than to deploy some of our top state-of-the-art technology, you know, and get people riled up and report that, there's nothing to see here because, hey, the thing they are seeing is ours and there's nothing to see here. We are 100% sure about that. It's the Unmanned Aerial Systems Authority Security and Safety Act that expires on the 20th of this year. And what better way to get attention on that vote than to either play into what people are seeing or create the reason for people to have a hysteria, you know, one of the other.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. To me, either one is plausible, but whatever people are seeing, it's not alien. I don't think it's Iranian, Chinese, or Russian. Although, you know, there are definitely Iranian, Russian, and Chinese drones, but they're not coming from those countries. They're being built and launched here, you know, in this country. So, like, that's an issue. That's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother thing. But the idea that this is some next gen tech from them, I don't think it is.
No. And, you know, just on a personal note, you know, I've been saying this for years, like if we're thinking from a defense standpoint, I can only really look at our current situation as being really vulnerable when it comes to drones and aerial incursions. And I'm really surprised that they haven't already taken steps to mitigate those possible threats. I just very surprised. I mean, the infrastructure and the type of things that they're going to have to put into place and the funding that they're going to need to really be able to defend against these things ubiquitously across the board, even if it's just across all of our border areas, is massive. It's going to take massive amounts of everything. And to think that they haven't even really started doing that is just surprising to me. I don't have any inside knowledge about what steps they've taken and how, easy the technology is to defeat and all that. But I'm just kind of surprised. Not just, we've had obviously like ships having incursions and bases and stuff like that, but it just seems like something that they would have wanted to get out ahead of. Why that didn't happen, I don't know. But yeah, I'm really surprised that they haven't done more already. And that we're at the point now where alleged drone incursions are happening and the conversations about, well, we don't have the authority and we don't have the funding and we don't have this. And it's just a little surprising. And again, how much of the information can be trusted as wholly truthful is questionable, right? When they say that they've only got $500,000 to fight drones, is that really
out of the $7 billion
what they're spending?
The $7 billion budget that the FBI gets? $500,000 are on drones. I don't know, man. It doesn't seem plausible. It doesn't, and also, like, I think there are so many other departments that are really looking at the sky. To me, it's not the FBI's job really to look at the sky like that. I can understand why there's only where was Homeland Security? To me, that's the department that really should be answering questions and is not. At least, the answers that they're questioning again. But again, if it's that, to me, that's, it just makes so much sense. And I would love to be on the inside of it. But to me, that makes sense why the Department of Energy or Homeland Security is like, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see. It's, we trust us. We've looked with our state-of-the-art technologies, and there's nothing to see here. I think it's a lot of copycat drones. I think it's a lot of commercial traffic. I think it's a lot of normal just drone traffic. And I think it's more people flying drones because they heard that there's drones in the sky. So obviously there's going to be more drones in the sky. And you couple that with more law enforcement, and you couple that with more military planes. And dude, it's just Hysteria City. It's absolute nonsense. But,
for sure, yeah. And the amount of drones that are now being flown, like you said, because of the wave and the media hype that's going on, just people wanting to do their own copycat thing or play pranks or whatever.
How about just put a FLIR up there? Put something with a forward-looking infrared camera or night vision camera that gets a lot better footage of what you're trying to get. It's like, here you have the opportunity. Let's just say for a moment it was top secret tech drone stuff. Like, no one in Jersey has the kind of drone that can see at night. Not one person. Like, I don't know, man. Not one researcher. Like, I love when Jeremy Corbell's like out there during the sunset with his night vision goggles taking pictures for Twitter. And it's like, wait a second. Why doesn't your boots on the ass filmmaking ground go to New Jersey and get this thing on film if you care about it so much? Where's that? And how come nobody ever asks him, hey, why don't you go to New Jersey and get this thing on film? What exactly are you doing? Other than, hanging out with, what's his face from, I don't know what band. I can't remember. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Blink 187 or something.
Yeah. Well, no, it was Jane's Addiction. That's why I just can't remember. Yeah, Perry, something. I don't know.
Farrow or something.
Yeah.
Oh, Navarro.
Navarro. That's it. It was Navarro.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Jeremy didn't go to New Jersey and get in on that action. To be honest with you.
Right. Right. Like no one's got night vision goggles. Anyway, it boggles. Let's listen to the rest of what America says here.
For more authority to give to the state and local officials under our supervision, because it correctly notes those authorities need to be expanded.
I want to play something. Another New Jersey congressman, Republican Jeff Van Drew, said,
and maybe part of it is also, honestly, that Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security is like, no, for real, we do need to get these things in the hand of local law enforcement, because this is going to be a problem and they're going to need it. And not only local law enforcement, but military bases, key infrastructure facilities, like their staff and those people are going to have to be trained on how to use this equipment to bring down said drone. That wouldn't shock me either. Like that would be a huge initiative to do nationwide, you know, to get every single nuclear facility and construction project and Super Bowl and FIFA World Cup. And, you know, like there's so much shit coming. And that's another thing they highlighted in this hearing is all of the big events that are happening here in 2025 going into 2028. There's big events happening here in the United States that would be just, you know, the chef's kiss for a terrorist attack.
Yeah, definitely. And it's certainly, in my opinion, it's worth thinking about that and defending against that, right, so to speak, I guess. But like, we have those types of events all the time. We haven't had any incidents, right? And I'm just saying, if this entire
that we know
wave
of.
is right, and you know, certainly they are stopping people that are using drones. We're just not hearing about it, right?
Right.
And they're prosecuting them, or
well, they did have two. They had two examples in that hearing of people who've been arrested for targeting points of infrastructure through payloads delivered by drones in the last year.
I was going to say, and they didn't tell us about it until this wave kind of stirred up some people saying, hey, how come nothing's happening here? And then they told us about a couple that had already happened, right? But certainly we want to protect people that are coming to these events. Events where there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people. We want to protect those. But again, it just seems like we're having a whole conversation about these things based upon the fact that it's highly possible and probable. But all I'm seeing is it's possible, and I'm not seeing any of these drones or any of these instances that should give us cause that we need to do this immediately. We need to spend lots of money on it. People are in danger. When people are when congressmen are sitting in Congress and having these hearings that are being shown on television and replayed on the news, and they're talking about major sporting events and major events where hundreds of thousands of people are gathering, possibly being threatened and being something that they can't protect, that is kind of that's major. Considering it's never ever happened here before, and we have no proof that it's ever been conducted. Something like that's been in play and they haven't been able to stop it. Like it's such a I'm trying to think of the word. It's such a speculation,
right.
That we're having such a major conversation about it. And it's just, for me, I like to see evidence and I like to see things that I can base good decisions upon. And fear and anecdotal reports and possibilities aren't exactly what I like to see when I'm trying to make momentous decisions.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the American public probably feel the same way. They just don't know it. A lot of people do accept what they're told, and when politicians say things, it means something. And when they make statements, it carries weight. For a lot of people, that's just the way it is. Sorry, I went on a little rant there.
No, it makes sense.
I am I'm very patriotic. I'm huge on national security and defense, and I really champion our government and the military. And I just get a little nervous when I see major conversations happening like that without any type of evidence or without any type of real solid factual basis to get people riled up about like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, the good thing is that the president of the United States hasn't come out that would imply or suggest that there is an issue. It seems like the governor and the mayor, or at least the mayor, has come back and said, "Oh, the thing that I saw actually was normal flight traffic." Like, he corrected. The governor, I'm not sure has or hasn't. I think they're just answering the phone. They're just trying to, at the very least, publicly quell the anger and the confusion that they're getting phone calls about in the office, from concerned people who aren't getting answers that they like. So therefore, they have to comment publicly on it. But they've also been really careful in saying, like, hey, we're working with our local and state officials. We're working with the FBI. We're working with the Department of Homeland Security. But it would have been nice to hear them say, as far as we know, the FAA hasn't diverted any flights. As far as we know, none of these drones are showing up over, sensitive military spaces or infrastructure. As far as we know, major, congregations of people, whether they be sporting events, concerts, whatever, everything seems to be okay. Like, we're not getting reports of that, but just so you know, we're on it. Like, we're listening, we hear your concern, and we're going to work with the right authorities and the right people to try and get to the bottom of those answers. But there wasn't a lot of that. The only place we are getting that is right now from Mayorkas. But again, like, we're getting the what I think is the truth, but at the same time, like, they're slipping in. It might be us. It maybe might be us. I don't know. But there's no proof. That's just, we're just guessing. We're speculating. But when we point out those things, like when they discuss state of the art things that they're deploying. Okay, well, I would be nice if a journalist was like, whoa. Can you tell us, just to clarify, the state of the art things you are deploying, are they drones? Because if they're drones, maybe those are the things that people are confusing, and that could explain a lot of what's going on. Because then that would put him in a very difficult situation, because if they are our drones, he definitely knows about it. If it is the state of the art, but I don't know. I just don't think journalists are, I don't know. That's tough to catch in real time. I'm catching that, in a replay. So
yeah.
But it's just interesting. Again, and all we can do is speculate. But as far as the facts are concerned, there's nothing to this. It's hysteria. It's a lot of misidentification and spreading of nonsense.
About the drones over his state in New Jersey. Listen to this.
We're not being told the truth. They are dealing with the American public like we're stupid. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it's about. They haven't taken one down to analyze it. They have no idea where it comes from, but they know that it's not that. I mean, that's nonsense. They do not know what they're doing. Why don't they take one of them down, analyze it, and let us know what's really happening?
Are you able to hear this, Steve?
What do you say to the congressman?
Well, first of all, we have experts, and he should not diminish the extent of their expertise and the extent of their dedication to the well-being of the American people. These are individuals who dedicate their careers to the safety and security of the United States of America, number one. Number two, it's not as though anyone can just take down a drone in the sky. That in and of itself would be dangerous.
Do you have the authority to shoot down drones?
Our authorities are very limited. That is precisely why we have gone to Congress to expand those authorities. Our authorities.
I wonder if expanding that authority means, we'll be able to shoot it down once we get this new thing signed and delivered.
Well, I mean, when the reports first started, very, very first started, all of the news coverage was really including the fact that, we don't have the authority to shoot these things down.
Right.
And that quickly just disappeared. It wasn't part of the conversation. And most people on social media are asking, well, why don't they just shoot them down? of course, I don't believe it, because they could just shoot these things down. And most people, didn't even pick up on that fact that, like, they don't have the authority, apparently. So yeah, it certainly goes to that they could shoot them down, and I guess they have kinetic ways, right? They have ways to bring it down electronically, and you covered stuff on your show, obviously.
Yeah.
But it definitely sounds like that's what they were saying to me, at least.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think shooting it down would be insanely irresponsible. It's like, you don't know what happens if you miss. Where do those bullets land? What happens if you nick it and it lands and crashes 2 miles away from where you shot it? There's so many things that could go wrong. If it is advanced tech and it crashes in a populated area, people are going to take pictures of it. They might even grab pieces of it. Who knows? There's all sorts of issues that come with trying to shoot down drones. To me, it's a silly question. I think people should be really more focused on what are the techniques, what are the tools that you guys have now that you could talk about that can bring down these things. Because again, in that congressional hearing, one of the witnesses there was like, the idea of scrambling these things and bringing them down, that's old. That's 10 years old, that idea. These are fiber optic drones that cannot be hacked like that. And they communicate a lot faster, and they don't even need operators in some cases. And so, how do you take those down? That, to me, those are the questions that should be sort of at the forefront of this. But yeah, it's interesting to hear someone from the state saying, no, they're full of shit, they're lying. And then this guy is just coming. To me, there's a huge disconnect here, and that's not the American people's fault. There's something's not right here. And I think it's fair to come to that conclusion where it's like, somebody's lying. Like, there's somebody, I don't know. What do you think? Is it somebody like where there's this much of a disconnect where state and local officials are saying, oh, they're lying, there's something here, and then you've got the Secretary of Defense or Department of Homeland Security going, no, there's nothing to see here.
So for me, when how I approach it, at least in my opinion, everybody's fallible, right? We're all we all have human fallibility. Now, it doesn't really matter, positions that could be acquired in life, whether it's, chief of police or mayor of a town or someone's senator or even the president, doesn't preclude for people from being fallible or from being biased or from having beliefs, right? So if you're a police chief or a senator or something, or in the House of Representatives, and you believe the stories that you're hearing from people, and you think, well, if they're true, then there's no way that the government couldn't know. There's no way that they couldn't shoot them down, and you have all these beliefs, which are really speculations, right? That you think are founded on good reason. Well, that doesn't mean that they're true, right? And it doesn't. Again, when the government says things to us, they also are going to be saying it to our adversaries, and they're going to craft messages for all kinds of good reasons, right? But typically when an official, the head of an official department, the Secretary of Defense, something like that, says something, gives an official comment about a topic like this, it's been ran through a million different ways by all kinds of people who are looking into all kinds of aspects about how to respond to that in the most judicious way possible. Very, very little does just outright lying to the public, I think, come into play there, right? Individuals can lie, but more importantly, I think individuals are just wrong. So we have the Secretary of Defense with all the vast apparatus and tools that he has available to him, and has spoken to all of his department heads and people he relies on, and he's getting the information that nothing is, really going on. It's misidentifications. Yeah. Meanwhile, you have other people in local and state government and whatnot who have their beliefs that, this is going on. And if it's going on, then this must be true. And they make comments like that. And unfortunately, that makes it for a very bipolar nature for us as the American public to live in. Really, that's where having evidence standards and just not really going with your gut
Right.
comes into play. Because at that point, then you could believe whoever is saying the thing that you're already predisposed to believing or thinking
Right.
is the most probable case.
Right. No, it's a great point. It's a great point.
Are limited by the
Political,
United States Coast Guard. And
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and politicians having interest in topics like this and having something to say about it doesn't have to represent anything more than politicians riding the public interest, right? And
Right.
That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, or I think in this case also, I think it's politicians genuinely trying to get answers for probably the palpable anger that they're getting from their staffers and messages that I'm sure getting in their emails and or on their voicemails, demanding answers. And then you got the department, the secretary for the Department of Homeland Security being like, yeah, you're wrong. Straight up, you're just wrong. And I can see how that's frustrating for some people. But yeah, I think when you're faced with some hysteria, I think there have been more than enough good explanations, and we'll end with a Mick West breakdown of what he says, what he thinks is going on with this whole drone issue. And I'm sure a lot of these people who have seen drones in Jersey have never heard of Mick West, and they've never seen this breakdown, and they don't understand that the thing they think they saw was actually commercial traffic and or a drone and or whatever. But all right, well, let's listen to the rest of what Mayorkas has got to say, and then we'll end with Mick.
In the maritime environment, the United States Secret Service and its protection of our national leaders, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection with respect to the border. We have various authorities that are discrete to the particular missions. We can't just shoot a drone out of the sky.
Do you know for sure these are drones or unmanned aircraft? What are they?
We believe that there are cases of mistaken identity where drones are actually small aircraft and people are misidentifying them. There very well may be drones in the sky, of course, but those are commercially available. One can go into a convenience store and buy a small drone. There are also commercial drones as well. But we know of no threat or nefarious activity. And I want to repeat, Wolf, that if we learn of any cause for concern, we will be transparent in our communication of it.
We know that some of these drones, whether in the Middle East or Ukraine, have weapons, have missiles attached to these drones. Wouldn't it be smart to at least get a look at these drones to see if they are armed?
Wolf, there is no question that technology has advanced in the realm of drones. They can fly farther, they can fly faster, they can carry heavier payloads. Our authorities need to keep up with the technological advances. The chairman of the Homeland Security Committee in the House of Representatives, Mark Green, has argued for and advocated for that expansion of authorities. So has Congressman Pfluger. We agree with that advocacy, and we have sought increased authorities.
As you know, it's causing a lot of concern. Mr. Secretary.
I'm here to calm those concerns, Wolf, and we'll be back if there's any reason for them. We have not.
I mean, to me, that's pretty damn reassuring. I don't have an issue really with what he's saying there. And I also think he makes a good point. Like, look, it's not just the Department of Homeland Security. It's the Border Patrol. It's the Coast Guard. It's the FAA. It's all of these other layers of government departments that also look at different aspects of our border and our border security and safety. And none of these guys are reporting it. None of these guys are talking about it. None of these guys are yelling at the top of their lungs that we need to be aware of something that's in our sky. So I think you're right, Steve. I think a lot of this is just overblown hysteria that has gotten to a pretty crazy point where they're talking about this for 6 full minutes nightly on the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. So it's gotten to a pretty, like I said, at the very top of the news stream, and people know about it. They're talking about it, and honestly, it's kind of nice because some people have been hitting me up saying, "Hey, man, you were right. The drones are here. What's going on with the drones?" And I'm like, unfortunately, these aren't the drones I was looking for. These aren't the exact drones that I was talking about. But yeah, they're coming. Like the idea of these drones, I think, and again, it's something they highlighted in the congressional hearing. Like they've said in that hearing, right now we're at the tipping point where we see another 9/11 coming down the road, and we have an opportunity to prevent or stop it. And I think we're going to let that opportunity pass us by because we're not giving this the attention it deserves. And I think they're right. I think they're right, because again, like this people just keep thinking about when you hear drones, they think of drones singular. They don't think of drones plural, and if they do, I think they rarely are thinking of drones plural in the sense that there's a few hundred of them and they're all synced together and it's a swarm, and they're individually on their individual missions, and they're fiber optically controlled, and they've got very dangerous payloads heading to different places, on the eastern seaboard. Like, I don't think they're thinking about that kind of drone attack. But
no,
I
and I think people are becoming more, more aware of that stuff. But like that technology, like you said before, is old. So any of the threats that exist like that today have certainly existed for years, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And we've heard about incursions on, military ships and installations for quite a while now. I mean, even going back to the drone swarm of Colorado, and the 2019 drone incursions on ships. So again, I would have to think that on some level it's a problem that they have an operational hold on, but thinking in the larger picture, there's just a lot that would have to be done, right? Like if theoretically right now anybody could get a drone and put it in the sky and be a potential threat, then I would have to think there's a whole lot of infrastructure that just has to be built to defend against that.
Right. Yeah, and or all of the infrastructure that's put in place has to be up to speed and given the permission and trained on the resources that we do have, which they're not.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll see a real restriction of people who can operate drones, right?
Yeah.
And who can even buy them.
I think so. I think you will. It's going to be a lot more difficult for recreational drone usage, I think. It's just going to be more and more. It's already difficult as it is right now. It's going to get even more difficult. So, yeah, that sucks, but unfortunately, it's just kind of where we're at with this whole drone issue. 'Cause it's bad.
Just like all kinds of technologies that we've had in the past, like radio and whatnot, there comes a point where it needs to be regulated and the general population needs to be thought of and defense needs to be thought of. And, rights have to be sacrificed for the greater good. And those are all great things and really important conversations. And I just think it's important that we frame them, especially from the beginning, in the right light. And if we're framing them with bad evidence and unfactual claims and ideas, it just sets for a dangerous path in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's end on this because I thought this was great. Mick West, I think, summed up this whole thing in about 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And he titles this Drone Madness, and he writes with this post, "My take on the drone situation. Drones are real. Drones are a genuine security issue, but what we are seeing is the New Jersey scare is not drones. All cases with sufficient information turned out not to be large drones." And then this is what he put together here.
Drones are
Yeah,
real.
man. Thank God
They
for
fly in the sky.
Yeah, thank God for Mick West, you were going to say?
yeah. Thank God for Mick West. Really, just another great example of how important he is to the topic and has been, for years.
For years, yeah.
And yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Don't be sorry. I'm just agreeing with you. I just, every time I think of him, I think of the conversation I had with him after I ended UCR and thanked him, and apologized to him, basically saying, hey, if there was ever a moment where I was just being an obnoxious jerk with my viewpoints, I apologize. I know it was the patience that you had with me was unparalleled, so I appreciate it. And that's always been really cool.
Yeah, no, and I think that's cool that you did that. And you also, had that conversation with me and other people. And it just goes, I think, to speak to the type of person that you are, to be able to publicly and privately, say, hey, I was wrong and I appreciate what you tried to do. And it's just really cool, I think, that you're still sticking in the topic after, kind of publicly taking a side, so to speak. And digging your heels in, and not too many people are willing to reverse once they get to that point. So, I said it to you before, but thank you, and I'm always honored to be here and involved with you. So thanks again.
Oh man, dude, no, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to hear that, it's nice to hear, like, yeah, like, of all the people out there that think that I'm this crazy monster or scumbag or bad person, it's just like, dude, you don't know me. You really don't know me whatsoever. And it shows, because if you did, you would never say these things about me. But yeah, I mean,
and
it's nice to hear.
No, and it's nice to see, for people like me and other skeptics that are involved. A lot of times it can really be a discouraging topic and conversation, and it's really nice and encouraging and rewarding to see people be able to truly open their mind and be able to become more factually based and follow evidence standards, and to really process information in a more objective way. And just seeing people like you and Stephen Greenstreet's another great example of people who were willing to put, factual evidence first, even when it went against things that they had long believed to be true, which is really hard on its own. But to be willing to tough it out, to try and bring that message and help other people reach that same level of processing information, And Mick West, people for years have talked about, how bad skeptics like Phil Klass could be, and just how they're, incorrigible people. And Mick West is like the most humble, nicest guy, perfect English gentleman. And yet that's still not good enough for people because he just doesn't believe what they do,
Well, I've said so many times
for everybody.
Said so many times in these spaces and in these forums, like, there is no one that is good enough for this community to accept as a skeptic or as a rational thinker. There is no perfect person. There's no way for someone to present the facts to you people without all of you getting bent out of shape and taking it personally and using it as some sort of attack against you. We're not attacking you. We're attacking your attachment to a belief. And we're attacking it not with insults. We're attacking it with fucking facts. And if you ignore those facts, not once, not twice, but 10,000 times, and then you rebut with nothing but nonsense and vitriol, then at that point, yeah, I'm going to call you mentally ill for UFOs. Like, you have proven yourself to be completely irrational when it comes to your belief system. And that's why there's no skeptics in your forums. That's why Mick West doesn't come hang out with you guys. That's why Stephen Greenstreet doesn't come hang out with you guys. That's why it's rare that I go and hang out in those spaces or talk with these people anymore, because it's frustrating. It's honestly, at some points, it's like banging your head against the wall. But I mean, yeah, without Mick West, Like Mick West was saying, the audio of this cockpit recording doesn't matter. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because they could be misidentifying something. And according to the math, that's exactly what's happening. And it turned out he was right. And now to me, because I don't know about you, but for me, the audio of the go fast, the whoa,
Yes.
we got it. Like that audio clip sold this entire narrative to the American people as a real phenomenon. And that clip, all that is a literal example of highly trained pilots getting something wrong in real time. That's what that is. But for 7 years, everybody thought and attacked Mick for simply saying, hey, this audio doesn't count. And the reason why it doesn't count is because the math doesn't match what they think they're seeing. They think they're seeing something really fast, and they're not.
And, you know, there was, I forget now if it was the same video or one of the other two, but, you know, he was talking about seeing a whole fleet. He said, bro, it's a drone. There, you know, there's a whole fleet of them on the SA. You know, that audio got edited out of a lot of presentations and just had no audio at all. But even then, when they're saying it in this video, a lot of people who are UFO fans are just willing to disregard that. Like, well, they're just misidentifying, or, you know, they're just speculating about what it is because they don't know.
Right.
Again,
well, I mean,
like
even one of the pilots was like, "It's a fucking drone, bro. Like, it's a drone, bro." Like they said it a few times, and then it was like, "Oh, there's a whole fleet of them." It's like, yeah, there's a whole fleet of drones. Okay, that's a problem. You know, especially if they're not ours.
Or what they were assuming at that moment to be drones. Right?
Correct. Right. No, it's true. Well, let's listen to what Mick has to say, and then we'll close the show.
Drones are real. They fly in the sky, sometimes at night. Sometimes they fly over military bases, and sometimes people get arrested for doing that. There are small drones and big drones. But there's no good evidence that any of the recent spate of large drone sightings in New Jersey are actually large drones. With practice, you can identify lots of things in the sky. Sometimes you use the shape of the object or its lighting configuration. Sometimes you use a site like Flight Radar 24 or ADS-B Exchange to see what aircraft are in that location or in that direction. Sometimes you look at what stars and planets are in the sky, and sometimes you look up satellites. Most of these need the date, time, location, and the direction the camera is looking in. Date, time, and location are the most important, and I often refer to these as the details, DTLs. In every single case where we have the details, and in many cases where we do not, we managed to identify what was being looked at. In every case, it wasn't a large drone. This triangle drone was a C-130. This video of 8 circling drones was a bunch of planes circling in a holding pattern. This drone was a helicopter. This video of a mystery drone shot by a professional photographer was probably Venus out of focus. Those reports from pilots to air traffic control over Oregon were Starlink satellites. New Jersey Senator Andy Kim saw a lot of drones, but he was looking at planes, something he later discovered. Former Governor Larry Hogan saw drones, but he was looking at stars and planes. These stationary drones over the Capitol were just normal incoming air traffic far away, so seeming not to move much, but they did move. A reporter claimed to see drones, but he shows video of what were obviously planes. I could go on, but the point is made. Every case where there's enough information, and especially with the details, the date, the time, and the location, what we see are not drones. If that reporter gave the details, we could see what aircraft he was looking at. The government is slow, and the military is both slow and cautious, but they've all started to come around, with the DHS and the FBI saying on December the 12th, "We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. Upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft operating lawfully. There are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. Is it just mass hysteria, social contagion, a collective delusion? Mostly yes. Remember, there's zero evidence of any large drones in New Jersey, and dozens of confirmed misidentifications. Drones are a real thing, and they represent real security concerns. China is probably using them to spy on us. But what we are seeing here is really just a really large flap, just with drones instead of UFOs. Eventually, as no drones are found, it will fade from the public consciousness, but many die-hard believers, especially in the UFO community, will never let it go. But there's nothing here. There's no good evidence. And if you think you've got it, post your video with the details. Post the exact date, time, location, and the direction you're facing, and we'll check to see if it's a plane, a planet, or a satellite. Maybe we'll find a drone. But right now, it seems to be all misidentification. These calls for action, the calls for legislation, the calls to shoot down lights in the sky, which are probably passenger planes, and the wild theories about secret drones hunting nuclear weapons, all that has no basis in reality.
I mean,
Nailed it.
Nailed it, right? I mean, absolutely nailed it. There's nothing that you could say, if you're a logical person anyway, that is a good argument against any of what he just said. You know, and there was even a famous astronomer, I'm forgetting his name right now, it's slipping my mind, but I had retweeted it, you know, with your move, stupidity, I mean UFOlogy, and it was an astronomer saying, hey, send me your best UFO New Jersey drone footage, because so far everything I've looked at has been an airplane. You know, and he's like begging. There are astronomers, there are researchers begging for that smoking gun footage, and not one of these is it. But yet you've got people like Red Panda and Chupacabra and these thought leaders, quote, thought leaders in the community, spreading all of this stuff and then making huge implications and jumping to conclusions without any data whatsoever. And then literally either that day or the next day, all of this stuff is debunked with community notes, or someone like Mick West has actually given you the answer to it. And there's never a rebuttal. There's never, or not a rebuttal, but a retraction or a correction or, hey, sorry, I got this wrong. Like, even like when we posted the footage of somebody shooting at a drone, we posted it and it was upsetting, and it was like, holy shit, look at this, look at what this has caused, this craziness. And as soon as I realized it was fake, I took it down. I took it down because it's like, okay, this is bad information, this is not happening. You know, so it's the only thing I can do is take it down if it's wrong. But we're not seeing that with anybody in any of these discussions that's happening. And again, and then you've got, it's being sort of being sort of co-hosted and validated by, again, really good minds and really important voices trying to write a bull that's unwritable. Like trying to placate to this part of the conversation that honestly, they're not understanding what you're saying at all. They're not registering it at all. And there are moments where it lashes out on you and you keep going back to it to get more cuts, like a cat that just keeps clawing at you or something. It's weird, dude. It's so strange. Sorry, you were going to say.
No, and that's like the whole, this whole wave is driven by that, you know, irresponsible sensationalism.
Yeah.
And just, you know, sharing things without like proper vetting, and not just like on Twitter accounts, but even like mainstream news reporters. There was I think she was like, what was it, Fox 69 or something? A reporter who did a story, you know, about the drone wave a few days ago, and you know, she says right there, you know, we saw 7 of them flying over us in, you know, 30 minutes. We couldn't capture them with our news cameras, so we had to use our cell phones. Here's the footage we got. And then they go on to show literally just airplanes flying in a straight line. And so I reached out to the Fox reporter, because actually Red Panda had shared her, you know, segment, and she had commented on it, kind of, you know, saying why they had used their cell phones instead of the news cameras, which there was no explanation. It was just our news cameras couldn't pick them up, so we had to use our cell phones because they could.
That makes no sense at all.
Yeah, and like not only that, but like some of the footage that was being shown was also used on another news piece. So I had messaged her, you know, just publicly, and I responded essentially to her post, just, you know, asking, you know, if her and her team had taken the images that were being used in her piece, if they had taken them themselves with their cell phones, that was actually their footage that was taken that night. And I, you know, noted how she says that they were, you know, making erratic movements and flying back and forth. But the videos that she showed us just show what appear to be planes flying in a straight line. So I was just wondering if she had any videos of them making these erratic movements. And I just got no response on any side.
Right.
But again, it's just like you said, just about the engagement. What are people going to click on? What are people going to watch right now? And there's little accountability on the back end when these things turn out to be bad information.
Right.
By then, they've already moved on to the next topic that they're using for engagement. And that's a huge problem that we have just across the board with media and getting our information today.
Yeah. No, dude, it is. If that's one thing that this UFO discussion has showed me is, man, the media is really bad at reporting on this. And if it's bad at reporting on this, what else is it reporting like this, you know, at this level of bad? And I think it's probably a lot of it, if not all of it. It's very difficult to get really good, solid journalism these days. You know, I usually wait things to go, like I look at the AP, like the AP and Reuters are the two places I just try and get the news from, or at least the, you know, the headlines, and because that's where all of these news stations pick shit up from. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough. It's really difficult to trust any sort of reporting these days, because all of it is just so all over the place, and it serves a purpose more than most of the time, and usually that purpose most of the time is just click farming. Yeah, and like you just kind of said, that's one of the biggest gains for me and takeaways from being interested in this topic. You know, having been like you, a believer before, but was just realizing how low my level of discernment was when it came to analyzing information, and how poor my standards were. You know, standards that I thought were pretty good as a, you know, educated person. It surprised me at just how much I was taking on face value without any type of verifiable evidence, often because I was already predisposed to that message. So yeah, the biggest takeaway for me in becoming a skeptic was extrapolating that out into every other aspect of my life and the way that I process information. It's just totally changed the way that I think about a lot of things, because I came to realize how much of my views were just based upon just, like I said, speculative information, anecdotal accounts. Somebody said something, and I believe them, you know? Right. Yeah, no, I think it's belief is a hell of a drug. It's a hell of a drug because it really makes you overlook a lot of things. And the thing that I find really funny, and I think this is the thing that drove, were you familiar with Craft Beard or Andreas that was in these spaces there for a little while?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I miss him too. That's the thing that would drive him crazy, was when you would narrow it down to one claim or one thing, answer that claim with fact, and then the very first things to rebut that is, okay, yeah, but what about this? And then they go to this next thing. It's just like, no. Let's acknowledge that what we just did was completely debunk your belief, your fact, with actual fact. Let's not just move on to the next thing. Let's acknowledge that. And I think that's the biggest issue with the community a lot of times, is that they don't acknowledge when it just doesn't make sense. They want to move on to the next thing that feeds that belief, instead of actually listening to the answer that they just got.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is ontological shock.
Yeah.
You know, and conspiracism is, like you said, it's a hell of a drug, and it's really sexy. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're like part of it. You know, like I said, they think that what they believe and what they think is based on really good evidence. And that's what makes it so hard. You know, and a lot of these topics are things that like are really deep. It's not just conspiracism about something, you know, mundane. It's like the deepest secrets the government has, you know, the answers to the universe.
Right.
Yeah, it's really sexy stuff for a lot of people. Step away from that and to come from a different point of view, like becoming a whole different person in some ways, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. Well, Steve, we've come to the end of the show. I think your headphones just died, so what perfect timing. Dude, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your perspective. I can't wait to see your face a lot more on this on the channel and show. Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thanks for having me on. And I look forward to doing some more shows with you, man, and covering the craziness that we're experiencing every day here.
This was so much more relaxing with you here too. It's just nice to bounce off these thoughts and ideas off of you. And yeah, no, everything made sense. Everything was rational. Everything, it's clear that it's a lot of hysteria and a lot of nonsense, and I appreciate you being here to help me parse through it. Everybody, Steve Long, you can find him on Twitter at UAP or SAP. Highly recommend checking him out, giving him a hard follow. Just because, again, he's a level-headed, rational thinker in this discussion who used to be a believer just like me and was one of those guys who was helping me get out of the rabbit hole. And then when I finally got out, was able to say thank you and apologize. Because it's when you're in that rabbit hole, I got to tell you, sometimes you'll defend that viewpoint to a point where it's just obnoxious. And so I had to apologize for that. But yeah, appreciate you, buddy.
Not even necessary. Much appreciated. And like I said, it's just been great to watch you grow, and it's been rewarding. It was well worth it, man. And to watch you go, I know it probably takes a lot out of you to do these shows on your own, but it's always enjoyable. You do a great job, and you really hit the points well, man. And just thanks for keeping at it.
Yeah, no, dude, thank you. Ditto. All right, with that, you guys, I appreciate everyone being here. We're gonna let you go, Steve. We'll catch up here in the next couple days, and yeah, have a good week, buddy.
You got it. You too. Have a good week, everybody. Take care.
All right, ciao. All right, guys, that was Steve Long. Again, follow him at UAP or UFO, right? UAP, it's on there. You guys, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for being here. Dana Shadell, Compliziert, our members here, our mod, Pinzerloo. Appreciate it. Tell Matt when he wakes up, thank you for being here. Vancouver guy, Bobby Broadway. Always appreciate the support on Twitter, Bobby. Lord Boss, thanks for being here. TJS, I'm from Connecticut, and I think the drones are confused why New Jersey exists. Oh, that's amazing. Mama's Dope Boy, thanks for being here. You guys, this was a killer fun show. I loved Steve being here. I thought it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoy Steve being here, because he's going to be here a lot more often. So with that, you guys, thank you so damn much for coming aboard and hanging out and helping us raise the bar. Truly appreciate it. We can't do it without you. If you haven't already, hit the like, share, subscribe button, ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we go live. And if you want to support us with the almighty dollar, check out our membership, check out our Patreon. And yeah, that's it, y'all. Have a great week. We'll see you soon. Peace out.